Overthinking It. I am Sean.
I'm Paul.
And we are here to overthink things so that you don't have to.
Exactly.
Or so that you can talk to your friends and say, hey, have you way overthought about this yet? And the odds are, in this day and age, you probably have. Paul asked before the show which version there is of me tonight. Is it
Salty Sean?
Salty Sean or Chipper Sean? And I just said, well, you'll have to wait to find out. Because there's enough reasons out there lately to just be like, it feels like the gauntlet of just how much can you take before you want to scream a little bit. And and then if you want to really have fun, just throw in a little bit of a hint of where's McAfee.
Oh man, yeah.
So
I love it. Let's do it.
So that's what version. So that's where we're going tonight. So strap on your seatbelt, like and share this, and be sure and invite a friend because this is about to get a little bit crazy.
It's gonna be a fun one.
So as usual, Paul, how is it in the land of freedom?
It's freer by the day.
My gosh.
I barely feel anything anymore. I was in where did I go the other day? I went to Target. So Target, it's more of like the elitist left-leaning Walmart,
Sure.
Little fancier, little more outspoken on some belief stuff, but I don't care. I mean, I took my daughters; they wanted to go shopping there, and even in Target of all places, it was like 5% masks. It feels
Really?
like they are the weird ones now, and that feels great because it was the opposite
awesome.
for so long. Other than that, man, we're planning like July 4th. Do it big,
Right.
There are no restrictions, so life's good right now. It's good in Texas.
I feel in Washington we did something where when we had it officially, there is on June 29th, which is my birthday. Go ahead and send it.
There
Feel
you
free
go.
to
Hey.
PayPal me. HopeExplosion@msn.com. No, the official mask mandate is lifted on June 29th.
Oh,
in
happy
Washington.
birthday to you.
Right. But this is what's really weird is technically the majority of businesses right now have kind of already preemptively done that. So the stores and whatnot, although they did at the kind of once other cities were starting to loosen their mask mandates, they had decided that we would like to welcome our vaccinated guests. Make, they don't have to wear masks.
We have that here too.
Right. So those signs are starting to come down now. So it's just becoming kind of this universal thing.
Interesting.
But today I went to the store. I went to the UPS store, and the majority of the people in the UPS store had a mask on.
Okay.
And then I went into Safeway, and the majority of the people in Safeway had a mask on. And I just thought, that's really interesting. So it kind of feels like for a moment there was a little bit of freedom, and then now we're almost kind of going backward.
There's an adjustment period. It happened in Texas too. It was like the comfort period took a minute. Because you guys are doing it the opposite. See, we went no mask mandate in March, and then the Fauci emails came out, and then the CDC thing happened. And so it was kind of like, oh, we're already not being required, and now we're giving reasons not to be required. So the comfort level just grew and grew. You guys are doing it the opposite. All the information's been thrown at you.
Yeah.
All the mask information. Now it's like, oh, and now our government is going to let us do it. So I don't know how it's going to look like with you guys, what the comfort timeline will be, because of the reverse, and also definitely a different population of believers there.
Yes, indeed. No, I saw it play out a little bit different. I kind of saw it play out in real time. I have one of my neighbors teaches school in Taiwan. So during the school year, they're in Taiwan, and then they come home for summer. They didn't come home last summer, obviously, because the quarantine restrictions on both sides of that flight were just out of control. So there's just like not even worth doing. So they did come home this summer. One of the reasons they came home is the vaccine is not as readily available in Taiwan. Okay. So they thought it'd be beneficial for them to come home to the States where you can get the vaccine anywhere
for free. Just show up.
Yeah, just show up. So they and potentially you can get depending on where you get it, you can get a lottery ticket, a marijuana joint, $50.
Shake Shack fries.
Shake Shack fries. Here they give you stuff. So not only is it not rare, but you get Hep A.
I feel like it's almost harder not to get it. I mean, I was watching the I was watching the playoffs
if
tonight.
you go to a Mariners game and all of a sudden you feel, ow, what happened? It's like, well, I'm sorry, sir. You leaned against our vaccine wall.
Yeah. It's like if you lean back in your seat. No, I was watching
You're vaccinated.
The NBA playoffs tonight, and literally every, 2 out of every 5 commercials is a vaccine project commercial about how wonderful life is if you're vaccinated.
Yeah, no, and it's one of those things that, so it was really interesting because they were, and again, because it's pretty intense, the because remember Taiwan was like the gold standard, and then all of a sudden it went south. And the reasons they actually explained it went south are actually kind of seedy. They actually are blaming, because Taiwan was like opened up, they were doing concerts, everything was great. They're blaming airline pilots and brothels.
Oh, I haven't heard. Well, I guess that could make sense.
Yeah, I mean,
Taiwan,
you can make up anything you want, I guess, but that's what they're blaming on. It's airline pilots and brothels.
Wow.
So anyway, upon arriving in the States, I mean, they were like masked up. So much more that I was actually kind of teasing my neighbor, the kid, because their kid's like 17, and I'm like, bro, you're by yourself outdoors. You don't need to do that. But it's just so ingrained in them that they just kind of leave it on. But it was interesting because after about 5 days, they kind of realized it's different here, and they can start, because like she wouldn't even like come close, and she like loves us. She loves my family, my wife and daughter. And she's just like not sure what to do. So it was really interesting to watch her migration from this. And it's the same thing. It's interesting to watch kind of how the Northwest migrates as well. And so with the new propaganda of the Delta variant instead of the Alaska Airlines variant, the Delta variant is going to, get everyone else is what it sounds like.
Now, is that sticking at all up there? Is that even a point of conversation? Really?
Yeah, no,
people are talking about it? Because here, it's like I have to literally go on Twitter to even hear about it. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody cares. People are like, whatever, F a variant. We don't care what happens. We're never doing this again.
The Echo Foxtrot variant. It's... Well, no, they're using the Greek alphabet, right? Is that what it is?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, they're using the Greek alphabet.
Sense, yeah.
Poor use of the Greek alphabet. But so no, it's a big deal here because that's where you kind of hear, why are you still wearing a mask? Oh, well, have you heard of that Delta variant?
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Well, it looks like the commercials are working. Somebody actually listened to our podcast last week, because I do voices. I'm our voice guy here.
Yeah.
And they said they said we loved your podcast. It was really funny. You do a terrible Trump.
Well, yeah, your Trump was bad.
My Trump is bad.
You were a JFK.
So
Trump. What was that? That was Arnold.
Huge. I need to figure out. I'm huge. It's going to be huge. So I just need to figure out how to. So that's my goal. My goal is before the end of summer to have a Trump so that
I feel like when I was hearing him every day, I felt like I had like a 60%. It's good enough where you could tell who it was.
Right.
But now that I don't hear him anymore, I'm not even willing to try it. I feel
that
like
was the plan.
Yeah.
That was to block him so that no one else could do him.
No one can. You can't impersonate him anymore.
Now we can just do Kamala Harris.
I wouldn't dare try.
No.
That's the scariest laugh I've ever heard in my life.
Here. But, okay, so here's a couple. So what version of Sean are you getting today? I am, this is what I am. There's a little bit of salt.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of salt. But mostly this week I have been pretty, here's a big word. This is a $10 word here. I've been pretty contemplative.
Okay.
I've been like not on the conspiracy theorist level, but I have been, man, it's just so weird that it's so many things at the same time.
Yeah.
It is like life is like drinking out of a fire hose right now. Yeah. Like if you don't know the peace of God,
oh yeah,
you're on Adderall right now.
I would say 100%, and I would say as an addition to that, if you do know the peace of God, I feel like there's an abundance of it right now. Right. It's like supernatural because Okay, so you opened the show by talking about that fire hose of bad news and everything, and I feel like from January 6th through like end of March, it was just like, where's the hope in all this for those of us who have certain values? And I feel like the last month and a half, it just keeps going. Like you said, everything, so much is happening. Yeah. It's literally insane. Even the bad news is, it's like there's so much going on that it's easy to deflect it now and just be like, it's like that's either not going to last or it's not as big a deal as it sounds, kind of thing.
Well, it's even the micro, the little things. Like all of a sudden, it's like, it's just, like, what can we do to rile the people up today? Well, we're going to go critical race theory. Okay, well, what are we going to do now? We're going to do gun violence. Okay, well, what are we going to do now? Well, now we're going to do a January 6th investigation. What are we going to do? I mean, it literally feels like there is this... I mean, we've known this, but even now in the little thing, like Black Lives Matter, where are they?
Yeah.
It's not even a thing anymore.
No.
Like Antifa is still burning down Portland, but it's just like, it's not cool. It's just not, it's not
worth talking about.
It's not really worth talking about right now. We can talk about, Joy Reid can pontificate on critical race theory for, an hour.
It seems like the shock value of all that stuff is significantly declined, which means to me that at least if not the majority of people, but a much closer percentage to the majority of people are just not paying attention anymore. We're totally like, we're either tuned out or just totally shut our ears off to it, or those of people like you and me who do pay attention, we hear it now and are just kind of like, oh, look what they're doing today.
And you know what it makes me think, though? It makes me think, okay, what are they going to do? What's their next big one to, I don't
know.
I mean, that's why
I don't know. There's something.
We're being prepped for a UFO to be landing on the White House.
Well, you saw that the
Independence Day is not that far away.
Their voting bill got defeated, which is a massive defeat to the Biden agenda. Yeah. Like that might have been their biggest thing they wanted to get done, and it's defeated. So, I do think something's coming, especially I'm very interested to see what's going to happen late July, early August when all the Arizona stuff starts coming out.
Yeah.
What is going to be the counter narrative? Is it going to be a counter narrative, or is it going to be a complete deflection? Something massive happens to distract.
They've been working on that. They've been working on that counter narrative, and it's not working because I think they got the cart before the horse. It's like, how can you dispute something before it's even done? And again, it's because it depends on what when it becomes so blatantly obvious that it's like, well, here we're going to do a voter audit. Well, what are you going to do? Well, let's take a look at these 12. Yeah, all 50,000 are good. Why? Well, those 12 seem fine. Oh, okay. So it's really it's kind of interesting that there's all of these balls that are kind of being juggled all at the same time, and it kind of feels so much so that things like McAfee just kind of, it's a cute meme.
Man, where did that came out of nowhere too?
Sure it does.
Well, I had no idea.
He had that tattoo on his arm too.
Yeah. Oh, Swag. And multiple tweets recorded over the last few years saying like, I would never commit suicide.
I would do this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. One of the ones I saw was last August or September, and he was like, I'm fine here. The food's decent. Like I'm not suicidal.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And then so our buddy the Weinsteins. Did you see what Eric tweeted?
Yeah, no.
He said he had just heard from him like 5 days ago.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
No, Weinsteins are, I think, this is what I think. Someone has kidnapped the Weinsteins and they're actually taking over their Twitter. Because...
It might be true.
Although
nobody can tweet the way they tweet with their
it's true.
vast vocabulary. I don't know how you fake that.
One tweet that Eric put out a few days ago, he says, like him or not, end the war, follow so-and-so. And like 2/3 of the people that he said to follow, there's like 6 or 7 people, were conservatives.
Wow.
And Ben Shapiro was not on that list. So they must be having some point, But I mean, it was Sauger from The Rising.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan.
Rogan's not conservative, though.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't get into. We don't know what Rogan is. No one
He's
knows.
A libertarian. More conservatives like him than leftists, even though his politics would be more left. That's what it is. Because he's a free thinker, is what it is. He's a free thinker. So the current left, hates him. And that's what it's come down to.
And that was the thing. We even talked about that last week. We talked about
we did. Him and Ruben.
Able to, conservatives are able to meet on the field of ideas. Mm-hmm. We're even willing to meet you on the field of ideas and engage you, even if we disagree with you. Now, granted, in the middle of that, there is a lot of people right now that are just angry and want to just just not have a conversation with anybody.
Still got to be smart.
Yeah, they're just forgetting about it. They're like, I don't want to talk to progressives. It's over. They're out to destroy the country, and so they've kind of gotten a little myopic and blocked up. Mm-hmm. I'm not there, and I do think that a good percentage, because I know some pretty staunch conservatives that are pretty angry.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But if engaged in a conversation, they would have it.
Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, yeah. I don't know. Even the conservative, I have friends who are conservative that exactly what you're talking about. They don't want to even dialogue with anybody. Like, I have friends who are hardcore liberals, and for the most part, we still get along fine, most of them. Right. And we can have our talks. They can bring up stuff, and we jab each other, whatever. I have conservative friends who they won't even talk to these people. They don't want to befriend them. Whatever. They don't want them in their life anywhere. But they would not be afraid to debate them either. Right. Or have a conversation with them. Now, it'd be ugly. It'd be mean-spirited. It would not help anybody. But there's no fear in it. There's no avoidance of that. It's just like they just feel like it'd be a suck on their life, and they just don't want to do it.
And that's the thing is I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Well, it depends on who it is, but yes, I totally understand.
Because but the thing is it's one of those things. That's kind of what I've been contemplating a little bit is, and I actually am seeing some Christians that are not on the front lines. I feel like right now there are some Christians that are like they feel called to the front line, and it's it's very battle attire, it's and they're people I trust and people I love and know but they just feel like right now that we're in a fight, and we're kind of in a fight for our lives, and I'm like, sure, okay, and it's not necessarily that I disagree that there's some things that are of some pretty serious concern. I just don't know if that method that they're taking that is a little it's just closed. It's closed to discussion. It's closed
combative.
It's really combative. It's very accusatory, and I think that's what I've been thinking about a little bit, because it is easy to get caught up in the anger. It is easy to get caught up in kind of the froth of it all. But at the end of the day, if you do that, the greater picture of why we are here as people and representatives of the kingdom kind of falls to the wayside. And so I'm like, I don't even want to say I'm trying to find that balance, because it's not an issue of balance.
It's not a balance issue, no.
It's not a balance issue. No. It is an issue of this is my primary.
Yes.
Right? This is my primary purpose, is to love God and love his people, to love the Lord my God with all my heart, my soul, my mind, and strength, and love my neighbor. And so it's like to live out of that John 7 overflow. So that's what I've been kind of, and it's so in keeping that in mind and tattooing it to my person, right? Because you have to. It really has enabled me to, especially this week, have some conversations with people that have not been bad conversations, but they're just sour. You can just feel it. It's just like, this isn't a fun conversation. Yeah. They've actually been fun.
Okay, good.
Open.
Yeah.
Thought-provoking. And somewhat of a what's the word I'm looking at? My father-in-law would have a word of a vibrant agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's good. I mean, I'm in a weird position right now because I came from California where I had lots of left-leaning friends, and now since I moved to Texas, that significantly dwindled, at least in my day-to-day interactions. But now I'm in Austin, and we got here, and COVID hit 3 weeks after we moved here, so we're just now meeting people, and they're pretty much all people within my church.
Yeah.
So I'm not having dialogues right now with that. It's only like old friends on Facebook and stuff, and most of them are pretty salty and they don't even want to get into it.
Right.
But one thing I've noticed is, for me, I feel like I kind of went through my peak anger was probably January, with all the election stuff going on. I feel like right now I feel so confident that things have turned and are starting to head into a better direction. And I feel like you'd kind of have to not be paying attention to have a little bit of excitement right now within to see what's coming. I feel like
you said that last week too, which I thought was really cool. I haven't been able to get on your train yet, but I'm like, because the excitement I'm seeing, and I want you to finish, but let me just
go ahead.
I just wanted to interject this.
Yeah.
The excitement that I'm kind of seeing is not. I'm not saying it's unhealthy, but it's this kind of excitement, like there's this overwhelming sense that they're going to kind of get there soon, like that this the straw that is about ready to break the camel's back is ready to go. The last brick in the dam is getting ready to break. I mean, it's just so much pressure, so much absurdity, so much, pronouns, gender fluidity, all of these things are, critical of the race theory. All of these things are starting to become so massively just confounding that the average person that was kind of willing to actually even kind of go along with it
is done.
Is now going, oh, no. You lost me now. And so people are starting to feel like they're losing momentum, they're losing steam, and they're about to get theirs. And I'm like, that's not excitement, that's revenge.
Yeah, and that part...
I know that's not what you're talking about.
No, but there's truth to what you say, too, because, so from my perspective, the straw is about to break. What I'm just seeing, I think we've turned a corner where that stuff, which I do have issues with a lot of those things, especially like the gender fluidity and pronouns and stuff.
For sure.
That stuff, I think that's a good, but not in a revenge way. In a like, it's lost its momentum of meaningfulness. They overplayed their hand. They rushed things too fast or whatever it was.
Right.
But even that, to me, that's like the smallest part of the barrel. It's like, to me, the big thing is that I've talked about this. I see America just taking a turn where the states are regaining their power. The people are realizing how relevant they are, how they need to be a part of school boards and local city councils. Like, people are raised up again, and they're interested in being a part of what they're doing now in their local places. And what's happening, and what I'm seeing, is that the local governments are becoming more powerful again, which is what was always meant to be what America was.
Right.
Federalism kind of ties us all together in times of emergency. But other than that, we're all supposed to be experiments. Each state, each county, we all experiment, and I feel like that's coming back, and it's wonderful. And so that's the big picture. The next big picture is, I feel like this massive corruption that's been running on in politics and media over the last, let's say 5 decades, that's being broken up because nobody's listening to them anymore.
Right.
So that's going away, which that leads to other great things, and then it's just a trickle down effect from there. All the smaller stuff, and what's really happening is, I feel like individual liberty is starting to become fashionable again, and individual governance is becoming fashionable again, and in a major way where people are taking it back, saying like, you actually, we're superseding like local laws now and going straight to the Constitution and saying like, well, you might have passed that law, but the Constitution says that, and it's a greater law of the land, and so people are challenging again, and that to me is just wonderful. And I think I think that the corners turned on people's awareness of their ability to do that and the power they actually have. And so from now on, it's just a ball that rolls as long as we keep the momentum up, and it's just going to continue to get better and better. That's what I believe.
Well, I think we're finding things that we are all kind of starting to be like, okay, we can rally behind that, and even some things across the aisle we can rally behind, like what would I be thinking? Like Free Britney.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. I love that.
That's something we can all agree on.
Yeah.
And I'm really shocked at how much bandwidth that's actually gotten.
Oh, that's
because
wild.
The fact is that people can articulate arguments for both sides. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's a woman in her 30s. She's actually got a show in Vegas. If she's able to do a show in Vegas and make $10 million, I don't care what level of crazy she is, even if she is bat crazy.
Oh, yeah.
You shouldn't be able to control her life. Let her go, and then the other side is like, well, she could have done. I'm just like, okay, you guys, how many brain cells have you given to this one? Let her go. Seriously. And let's move on. There's more things to talk about. But, today America got behind Free Britney.
It was beautiful.
Except for people on Fox News. Fox News. Some people were opposed to Free Britney.
I don't. And see, that's what's so funny about the whole conservative thing. Like, the Supreme Court made a major free speech ruling this week.
Yes.
Did you see that?
I
it was
did.
8-1, and which is a massive thing. All these really strong rulings have been passed in the last month, and a lot of them have been 9-0, 8-0. Like, that's huge. So this one was 8-1, and it was about, for those who don't know, a cheerleader from a local small high school basically bashed her cheerleading squad, said all these horrible things online. But she was out of school and she did it, all this stuff. Well, the school tried to punish her. Supreme Court ruled that it was a free speech issue and she's free to do that. The one person who dissented surprised me. It was Clarence Thomas, who should be like the most staunch supporter of free speech in almost every other case. And it just shows you that sometimes even conservatives get tied up in this authoritarian thing in certain circumstances. And so that's very interesting. You brought up the Free Britney thing on Fox, where you'd think conservatives, and I don't think Fox is real conservatives. They're more like Republicans.
We don't know what they are anymore.
Yeah, we don't know what they are. But what they do, they try to appeal more to center-right people.
Right.
And one thing center-right people should never stand for is the idea of a conservatorship, of like basically controlling the person.
Well, and I'm trying to think to myself, I'm like, how ridiculous is this conversation anyway?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, people, we have a lot of questionable moral character people running around out there. Yeah. And they're fine.
Yeah.
This one just happens to have a lot of money and parents who need said money. So it's an issue.
Weird. There's something weird there because there's too many people in the music industry and Hollywood entertainment in general who are much more deserving of what she's gone through than 100%. She is.
100%. No, that's what I'm saying. I'm just like, geez, Louise. I mean, give the girl a break. So, but it was interesting to kind of watch. Like this is where we are as a culture.
Sure.
It was like Free Britney was the big topic today.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally had a condo fall into the ground.
Oh, that was wild. Yeah.
In Florida, but Free Britney.
Free Britney.
That's where we are. We have gang violence in Chicago on video that is like a war zone. And any other day, that would be, well, no, it wouldn't be because it doesn't fit the narrative, but that would be mass shooting. No, it's not a mass shooting. Mass shooting. Today it's Free Britney, and I'm almost like, okay, it's like a psyop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like how what kind of strings do we need to dangle? And maybe in a way, it could be COVID political race exhaustion. And
that's definitely some of it.
You know what? I don't want to think about anything else right now. You bet. Let's talk about Britney Spears and the right.
I think some of it too is just escapism. It's so much easier to get behind a Free Britney thing and feel good about yourself than actually have to get into the gritty details of people dying when a building collapses or in mass shootings in Chicago. And what does this mean that this like you said, the narrative, this hard left run city of 80 years is basically a war zone now. Let's not talk about that. Like, we don't want to talk about the lives there because of that.
So on kind of a new point, just because something I found really interesting. Have you been following the mayoral race in New York?
Very slightly. I check in occasionally.
Sure.
I know like Giuliani's son is running, I think.
Yeah, and Andrew Yang was running, but he dropped out.
That's news. Okay. Yeah. I figured he'd be a front runner.
Well, he was. Initially at the beginning, he was a huge front runner. And then let me see here. Actually, I want to pull it up because it was
to me, it's not news unless a conservative actually somehow wins it. Otherwise, I don't see how.
The only conservative kind of involved in it was a dude who wore a crazy beret. And he looked like he was out of a Stallone film or something like that.
But is it more of the same going on? Or?
No, it was really interesting because what they did is they did something called rank choice.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was not too familiar with this, so I obviously did a little bit of research on it and how they do rank choice is basically you have who's ever there was on the Democrat side it was like 9 people who were running in this primary, and so there's 5. You make 5 selections in order of your rank. So
that's
Andrew Yang would be your top choice, and then it would just continue going. So what they do is once those tabulations come in, they're 1 to 9, right?
Yeah.
The reason they created rank choice and the reason it's been kind of it's to avoid runoffs is what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so they go 1 through 9, and then number 9 is crossed out. And then what they do is they take everybody who voted for number 9, and they take their second choice.
Oh wow!
And
they just keep rolling it up.
8, right?
Wow.
And then whatever, take out number 8, take number 8's second choice, and they keep doing that all the way to till you have 5, the 5 slots, and hopefully within the 5 the 5 slots you have a clear winner. The guy right now who is leading with like 32%, and the second one is 22%, the largest deficit in a ranked choice election that's ever been overcome in the process is 9%.
Okay.
9.2%.
Okay.
So right. Excuse me, that was a yawn.
It was very interesting. Whoa. New York.
Stay with us, everybody. So interestingly, right now it's the outside difference of this particular mayoral race is 9.4.
Okay.
But they do think a lot of the mail-in ballots could change that around. So it's not exactly a nail biter, but it's in the wheelhouse, and so everybody kind of feels, even though ranked choice voting takes a little bit of time to count and get right because of kind of the count, recount, and re-add.
Sure.
But I guess I was saying all that to say that, one, I found the process really interesting. I wonder how many cities and states will pick that up. But 2, and you'll find this interesting, the candidate who is currently leading at the 32%, and most likely has kind of been crowned already, the new mayor, is a former NYPD captain.
Oh, that's very interesting.
So, yeah, you kind of in the...
That's like a full circle kind of thing.
Yeah, in kind of the sub-capital of defund the police, the mayoral candidate. So it's kind of interesting how that narrative is changing. It's like we want a police officer to be the mayor. A former police officer to be the mayor.
New York's an interesting place. They have a interesting history of going back and forth on mayors and stuff. It's kind of like California with governors, which we need to talk about as well.
Right.
But yeah, it's you think about Giuliani in the 90s. And then when Bloomberg ran, he ran as a Republican, which is just funny to think about now. But New York is an interesting place. I have a feeling that New Yorkers, for the most of them, they're Democrats, but I have a feeling most of them are like conservative, old school Democrats. They're not these like the woke crowd left, and That'd be my guess, anyways, based on what they've done. And New York, I mean, under I can't think of his name right now. Who's their current mayor? The worst mayor in America.
Oh, Bill de Blasio.
Bill de Blasio. Oh my gosh, what a joke. But I have a feeling that he probably changed a lot of people's opinions this last year.
Yeah.
I mean, think about New York. I can't even imagine what it's like being there, but I did see from the outside looking in some of their rents. We're talking about rent going down like 40% in New York City, which is massive because it's a very expensive place to live.
For sure.
So when you devalue your city by that much, I'm sure it's going to have a major backlash. It should anyways. Otherwise, that's an election that should be looked into as well, and I would hope New Yorkers would want to.
Well, it's hard, because it's kind of one of those things where you have so much. I mean, you have every kind of diversity possible in New York.
Oh yeah, easy.
You have ethnic diversity. You have financial diversity. You have intellectual diversity. I mean, it is just literally which in a way it's a beautiful representation of our country. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have thinkers and not thinkers.
Yeah.
But it's kind of one of those things that it still seems to be heavily influenced by, for lack of a better word, just progressive narrative thought.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's kind of the best way I could describe it. It's narrative thought. It's kind of like there's not. It feels like thought in New York is more experimental.
That's a good.
It's like, hey, let's run this one up the flagpole, and everybody should be fine.
I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that basically like all the news media is based there. And so they're kind of like the hub of the narrative spinning in America, so to speak. And, right. So I wonder if that has something to do with it. There's a major central centrifugation of power media-wise. Not entertainment media, but the other media is basically centered fully in New York. So I wonder if that has something to do with it. They probably have a little more sway there than everywhere else. You think the New York Times, CNN, maybe CNN's Atlanta.
No, they're in hot Atlanta.
Yeah, but a lot of other ones
are there.
Fox News is there, ironically.
But they want to be in New York.
Yes.
CNN wants to be in New York. They just feel. Have you seen? Who was it?
Although I don't know if they can afford it anymore. With
Joe Rogan it's true. Well, that's the thing. So Joe Rogan has been taking it to Stelter lately.
I love it. It's been hilarious.
And I've just been like, oh my goodness. It's just I mean, just to kind of get, slapped around on the largest podcast.
Oh yeah.
In the world.
Rogan, one of the reasons he's so hated is because he's so powerful. He might be the most powerful media personality in the world right now. I would say arguably, 100 million downloads on podcasts. Yeah. You think like CNN doesn't even average 1 million viewers for its shows? I mean, it's insane.
Well, Crystal and Eric Sauger, they actually did Joe Rogan's show. I think this was like 4 or 5 days ago, sometime last week. They did Joe Rogan's show, and then they flip-flopped it, and Rogan did their show.
Oh, that's cool. And I gotta listen to that.
It was really good, and it was but it's funny because ever since Crystal and Sauger left, Rising on the Hill, and it kind of were very vocal as why they left, and doing their own show now, Burning Point. It's funny because I think, to me, secretly, I think they've kind of found a niche a little bit.
I bet.
Crystal is going to become one of those. I'm liberal. I think liberal, but I'm going to hammer Joe Biden because that's what they want to hear.
Sure.
And I'm going to question cognitive dissonance, which she's doing. So, so you have to figure out what part you're playing right now. Are you playing the I just got to keep it real liberal, or are you going to go full MSNBC?
Well, look at all these reporters who have been basically announcing their talking to Project Veritas on the air.
Veritas lady, yeah,
like we've had it multiple times now.
Yeah.
Well, now there's been 2 or 3 more, and it just keeps happening.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, it's
air
amazing.
Lady?
Yeah, you should check it out. It's great.
No,
yeah,
I missed this.
More of these, and what they're doing is
mowing my lawn.
reporters who are actually and columnists, critical thinkers who actually have integrity and went into the journalism business thinking, I'm going to break stories, I'm going to keep power responsible, authority responsible, and then they get there and they realize, oh no, you're not. The power controls us. We're going to keep you on a narrative. I love that just a couple of them have stood out, and now it's like this a Rolling Stone, basically continuing on. It's amazing because Crystal and Saga are a great example. I think Crystal under the Hill probably had some things that they were like, we don't want you to do this, or she had, let's say, even if she wasn't commissioned to do certain things, peer pressure.
Tons.
And that's all gone now.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back for them. They said that basically what was happening was they were literally getting, big headlines cut to the floor.
Wow.
Like, just no, you cannot talk about this, or we're not talking about
That's
this.
Crazy.
And it was really interesting because you watched the 2, test subjects who were used to fill their spots on Rising after they left, and it was basically they did the girl guy thing. They flipped the roles though. The woman was the conservative. She was kind of doing the Kennedy kind of thing, and then Kennedy from Fox News, and then he was like remember Hannity and Combs? He was like Combs, but he was a conservative.
Oh, that's funny.
He only lasted about a week,
wow.
and they traded him in for a newer, younger model. But this guy was like listening, so he was a conservative, but he was like listening to like Brian Kilmeade, which no one can do for an extended period of time.
No.
So that honestly, I don't even know if Rising is still on. It could be off the air already.
Crystal and Sagar,
that's why they left.
Well, that makes sense. Their political podcast became #1 immediately,
and they wanted more money.
Well, yeah,
they're going to get so much more money for.
They're going to get so much
money. Yeah,
it's showing that
the subscription media is it right now.
Yeah, independent media is it right now. Like it's destroying. CNN's ratings are so down. Fox's news are down. MSNBC's down. They still have that establishment money behind them. But eventually that's going to dry up if things continue the way they're going. If they don't get another Trump to come along and boost everything for them, that's what saved them in the first place.
Right.
But it's amazing because I watch like Tim Pool. He gets more views than CNN.
Right.
Well, Steven Crowder.
That he was getting smacked. That was Stelter was getting smacked around with. It was like, oh, how come he was asking? Jen Psaki, what are we doing wrong?
Oh yeah.
He's like, Mom, help us, Mom. I was like,
Did you see that he published a book recently?
No.
And he sold 2,000 copies in the first week, and somebody made this meme about it that was like, CNN has 4,000 employees. It's like he couldn't even sell a copy to all of his peers. It's so funny.
Is that all he sold was 2,000? That's it.
2,000 copies. Which
2,000 copies.
That shows you.
It's all of his friends.
If you're in media and you only sell 2,000 copies of a book, you have no influence whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
That's going to end up as I heard some. Actually, we'll probably talk about this next week because there was a couple of things I wanted to get to, but I know we have stretched. How in the world do we do that? We're almost almost there.
We're 3/4 there.
I was really to kind of bring it back around because I think it's one of the things that I'm just in my contemplative process because there's something gratifying. This is just being honest, right? There's something gratifying about being ticked off.
Oh yeah, the energy you get from it. It's rush.
It's the same one you get is like when you're eating a donut. You know, so same sense of satisfaction when you're eating a donut, when you're just
it burns off quick.
Yes, but because you almost feel stupid for not being upset.
Yeah.
You know, to almost the high road almost seems.
Oh, that's what it feels like. Exactly.
Naive. You're
just
how
can you not be upset?
If you choose the high road, you're just being naive. You're just being, and it's funny because that's not the path of Christ. I mean, the path of Christ was almost, equally, not equally. Excuse me. It was solely motivated by how do we love? How do we demonstrate love here? How do we demonstrate forgiveness here?
Well, I think just to cut in real quick. I do think there's nothing wrong with being angry about an injustice.
Oh, right.
But it's what you do with that anger. So for me, it's like some of my best stuff is coming out of an anger place, not in a mean way. Right. But at the same time, that I've used that same anger sometimes and gone for like the revenge kill or the let me hurt somebody. And that is the wrong. So like your anger can be productive and good. Like that's why it says in your anger, do not sin. It never says don't be angry.
Right.
But I know exactly what you're tracking on. I just wanted to set that up that like if we're not telling anybody that if you've been angry, you're wrong because there's been a lot to be angry about.
Well, 100%.
It's like, well, what are we doing with that though? How are we directing that? You know. So, anyways, go ahead.
The thing is we have the character of Christ, the nature of God, the nature of the Father.
Yeah.
And Jesus said it over and over again. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So I mean, that was his way of saying, pay attention, boys.
Yes.
And girls.
100%.
Yeah. Pay attention. This is what I'm doing. If you want to know what show me the Father. Sweet. Watch this.
Yeah.
Girl gets pulled out in adultery. Mm-hmm. His attention does not turn towards the girl. His attention turns to the onlookers who are holding a rock.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Okay. Well, what's he doing right now? Mm-hmm. He is taking the path of extreme forgiveness, and he is, in some instances, he is forcing it on a culture.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he's literally throwing it back on them as they're getting ready to throw their culture at this woman.
Yeah.
Jesus is throwing forgiveness, kingdom culture, back on them forcibly, saying, you without sin, get ready. You're going to get the first shot, and we'll all get to watch it. And instead, they disappear. They're packing their rage, home. And then he demonstrates the heart of the Father by saying, where are your accusers? I don't accuse you either. Go and sin no more. And it's kind of like one of those things where he massively went out of his way to demonstrate just how much this religious cycle, anger was not, part of the kingdom.
Yeah.
And I understand in a way that's like, well, that's how he was dealing with religion.
Yeah.
In a way, and I might wake up tomorrow and go, what the heck did I just say? But in a way, we are kind of dealing with our own self-righteous religion.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And in the name of dare I say it, conservatism.
Yeah.
That we've kind of come up with a little bit of this religion.
And, 100%. Yeah.
Well, a lot maybe for some.
A lot.
And the thing is I'm kind of like thinking, if Jesus was to step foot into the midst of our circumstance right now, what would Jesus look like at now I know what Jesus might look like at a BLM. He might be hugging, loving, restoring, healing, nothing aggressive maybe at all. But my question would be, my bigger question would be, what would Jesus be like at an Antifa riot? And I don't know. I think I want to sit that one and kind of screen board that one out, storyboard that one out, what would Jesus be like at an Antifa riot?
Yeah. I don't know.
You know,
That's.
Yeah, because
I mean, I feel like.
Go ahead, take a crack at it. What would Jesus be like?
I'm not. I can't figure that one out. I mean, I think I think it'd be very similar to the BLM, honestly. Just like loving the people and focused on that, and not drawing attention to the, like he'd acknowledge the anger that's legitimate of the people there. I feel like, but would not so much the action itself. He would it probably. I mean, knowing Jesus, he'd probably pull all the attention away by just dropping two revelation bombs that stopped everybody in their tracks.
That's right.
You know?
Right.
But
he does have a few things in his tool belt that we haven't had, that we have access to, but not
exactly
able to wield just yet.
But what I was going to say is that when I read the Gospels, I see Jesus. Not so angry is the wrong word. I think really the only time you can truly say he displayed anger was clearing out the temple, and even that was deliberate. He didn't just explode in anger; he focused it and knew exactly what he was doing. And it wasn't about revenge, but what's it say? It's like the zeal for my Father's house consumes me.
Yeah, right.
But I feel like I see frustration in Jesus at various times, and it's two times. It's when it's basically his disciples who are like his own children, and he's like, you still haven't gotten it. Like, how long do I have to be with you?
Yeah, I've been with you so long. Yeah.
And so that's direct. That's like me and you. We're Jesus's kids. You know, like I feel like he might. I don't think he gets frustrated with us. It's the wrong word, but it seems like it sometimes, because it's kind of like, wake up. You know. It's like a disciplined frustration, like we might have towards our kids, in a healthy way. But then the other frustration I see is when he's dealing with the religious, which is interesting because they were also the political authorities in Judaism. So it's like he's dealing with the political authority and the religious authority at once. And I think that with that frustration, it's kind of like, you should know better. You know, you have studied my word. You are in the position of authority that I designed, and you're abusing it. Yeah, and he doesn't like. I mean, basically, what I see him doing is, in your example of the prostitute is perfect. The adulterous woman is that he empowered the people to be on equal footing with them. Right, and I think that is exactly what Jesus is all about. Like. We all have our positions, but it's to serve one another, not to rule over. And I think that's what Jesus kept reestablishing. Right. You know, you guys are abusing your power, you're abusing your twisting of my word and all this stuff. And I think there would be a lot of that today in the conservative movement for the religious side. Yeah. And on the left movement for the authoritarian political side. That'd be kind of my two cents.
That's good. I think it's encouraging to see that there are some leaders right now who are taking that stand. Mm-hmm. They're taking because it kind of feels like we were forced into one or the other, especially through COVID.
Totally.
You know, we were kind of forced into, not forced, but given these two options very clearly, and you had to honestly make a conscious choice to not do that.
Yeah.
You know, you had to, because, you know, you were either for, you were either for, you maybe weren't necessarily for lockdowns, but you were for compliance because probably for the most part, most of them were like, well, I don't know what else to do. Yeah. And it's been articulated pretty clearly that it would be irresponsible for us to not lock our churches down. And then others who were like, no, this is insane. It's incredibly unhealthy. It's not going to help people at all. You know, and then, you know, throw in, this is all fake, you know, and so it really, I think some people did feel pigeonholed to kind of pick a side. Mm-hmm. And then when you get so entrenched in that side, it's hard to get out. It's hard to kind of find that. It's hard to find that middle ground. I think I've done a pretty good job. You know, I'm not trying to break my arm, pat myself on the back. I think I've done a pretty good job of staying out of the mire, though. Mm-hmm. I have the ability to have strong opinions. Yeah. And I have the ability to articulate those strong opinions, especially I meet with a group of pastors. And I've been pretty vocal You know, I've been pretty, you know, to the point where I think I've even annoyed a couple of them.
Yeah.
And, you know, listening to certain, you know, leaders in our community saying, you know, critical race theory is just a myth. It's not a thing. It's not what you think it is. And I'm like, wow. And, you know, kind of listening to some of my friends just kind of go, oh, okay. And I'm like, he's lying. You guys know he's lying, right?
Yeah.
And he's not. I'm not saying he's lying because I'm kind of some crazy conspiracy theorist. I'm saying he's lying because he's absolutely lying. You know, I mean, it's just not. And maybe he believes it. Maybe in his head, what is being articulated to kids and what is being proposed in certain legislators around the country. As you know, things that need to be starting to be implemented in schools, you know, maybe that is no big deal to them, but it is a big deal. It's huge.
It's a huge deal, yeah.
Huge. And so, it's huge. It's going to be the best. I have words. No.
You're getting closer. You're getting
closer.
Yeah.
Such great words. But, so it's kind of one of those things where you have to be able to really rely on Holy Spirit for wisdom and willing be willing to listen to Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Say the hard things.
Yes.
Like, hey, back yourself up, you know, check yourself. You know, relationship is important. You know, I have a friend, Chris. He probably takes it to a level that I don't know. You know, he says, you know, when Paul says it's shameful to even speak of these things, you know, he kind of even takes that to, you know, some of the dark things that we face in our culture. You know, he's kind of like,
let's not talk about any hard things.
Yeah, let's just not talk about it. And I'm like, but I think what he's saying is that can't be the consuming emphasis of my life.
Well, I agree with that. Totally.
But I think he even takes it a little bit farther than that, and just is kind of like, I don't even go there. He's like,
I would say in most circumstances, if I heard somebody say that, I would be like, oh, you really just don't want to face the hard things. That's what it seems like to me. No, I don't know him, but I'm saying in general sense when I hear that.
I agree with you. And most people, I would probably look at that. He's just not that kind of guy. He's not the type to shy away. And so I've just kind of, when I heard him say that, I was like, okay, well, I'm not necessarily there. Yeah. I just kind of have to trust you. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where we're having to find that.
Oh yeah.
It's not neutral. It's not being neutral. It's not saying, it's not saying, you know, we need to be able to make sure we do a little give with a little bit of take. It's not that. Yeah. It is saying you are right now a son and daughter of the King, loved by the Father, created with a purpose, and you are currently not following or walking in that purpose. Instead, you are burning down a Portland jail. Yeah. or a courthouse.
Yeah.
And being able to say, how do I navigate life with you? You know, and because my first inclination is I just want to bop you over the head. So that's why, you know, I don't go. So I don't go.
No, I know.
Because I would be like, what are you? You know, I would just be like, okay, you just spit on a cop. You threw a brick at a cop. You threw a frozen water bottle at a cop. Yeah. I'd want to throw it back. You know, so, but I don't think Jesus would throw it back.
No, I agree with you, but I also think
it's a weird. It
thing is.
You know.
Well, I think one thing from a positive standpoint, and this is, even though I think this overall is a good thing, what I'm about to talk about. Let's say that it's. I will say there's a lot of kinks being worked out because it's a hard thing to do right. But the thing I think that's really becoming good is that. What I'm seeing from Christians, for the most part, is that they are speaking out against hard things now in a way that was not happening a year ago, 18 months ago.
Right.
There is a renewed vigor to fight injustice, which I think is a wonderful thing. And I think that, you know, it's like communicating the truth in love. I think it's very good to be sharing truth, which is, you know, stuff that is fact-based and kingdom-based, and I think that stuff needs to be, even if it cuts to the bone, it's like at least if it's done correctly, there's a path to healing in that. And I think that's very important, and it will bring you enemies, just like Jesus had enemies. But if you're doing it in love, you can still be blameless in heaven, and that's what's important.
Yeah.
And I think so. What I mean by the good part is that Christians seem more now committed to, at least in my circle. I know for a long time there's people who are like, oh, I speak truth, but that was different. They were a wrecking ball. That was just like they were looking to cause a stir. This is different. I feel like these people, what I'm seeing now, is legitimately like there's a lot of concerning stuff going on. Let me talk about it. Let me share with you this, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, in pulpit, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of that, and I think for the most part, people are handling it pretty well. But that's naturally going to cause division in the world because a lot of people don't want to hear it or they disagree. But we've been so like the church overall, and like I said, somebody's going to be thinking right off the top of their head, like, oh, I know this person. I'm like, okay, yeah, there's always those examples. But in a general sense, the normal average Joe Christian has not been concerning themselves with these things for years or decades. And they are now. And it's really, I think it's really good. But it is causing a division. So there's a fight going on. And the messy part is, how do we keep doing it in love? Because a lot of these people are new to like this arena. You and I, I think you and I are more outspoken. We've probably been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
We've figured stuff out. But I still know how to have relationships with people when I have very strong opinions and I'm not afraid to voice them.
Right.
But overall, I see that coming out more. And I think that's a really good thing. I think it's... the more truth gets out there, the more it will change lives. I do think I see in a lot of polls and all these trends that I think all this speaking stuff out is actually starting to have a positive effect.
Right.
But at the same time, it's making the opposition get louder too.
Right.
And so that sometimes makes things seem like there's more hate and vitriol in the air than there really is.
Right. But, well, yeah, there's no doubt that we have somebody that we have a media and a body politic that is fueling the fire because they benefit from division. Division unity doesn't do good.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are geographically, a unifying message is not good for one party or another.
Yeah.
And so they feed off of division.
But I was thinking about
if there was unity between conservatives and progressives, both parties would panic.
Absolutely.
Right. Because they're going to. I'm going to lose my base. And now all of a sudden I might actually have to win on ideas.
Yeah.
Instead of, I might have to have an intelligent thought instead of just ginning up my base.
Yeah, but it's like with your buddy, like you basically calling out the lie, whether he intentionally lied or not. That is simply just not true.
Right.
And that's an important thing to do. And what I think is good is that it's not just you doing it anymore. And one thing like we can say about what would Jesus do? Jesus was not tolerant. He was loving. He was compassionate, but he was not tolerant. There's just no tolerance there. You have to read a different Bible completely to find tolerance. He was, if anything, he made, like I think of the Sermon on the Mount. He made things seem even harder to follow than the law did.
No, it's
true. And there's just no tolerance there. And so, but people have substituted tolerance for love, and what I see, though, is the church for a long time was being pressured in many ways to accept tolerance as love. And now I think we're learning how to love without tolerance, without compromise in our values, but also in a way that does still reach across the aisle and communicates love. And that's going to be messy to navigate, especially for people not used to doing it.
Yes.
But in my opinion, the more people doing that, like taking the baby steps, the better, because they will get there, and eventually it'll lead to something really good.
Yeah. No, it is a gift. It is a learned gift. And I actually think that that chunk of meat that you just kind of threw out there for us to contemplate on, I think that's probably a good place for us to hit the hey, we'll see you later button. Next week.
Yeah. Well, I want to say one thing.
Okay.
I called it on Gavin Newsom. I just want to say that.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. That's true. That's true. Caitlyn Jenner. Let's see if it happens. No, I do. Some of my Californian friends are quite excited. They're like, this is a thing. I'm like, yeah. Okay, I don't know.
I told you California can get weird.
This is an image of a puppy. Anyway, sorry, that's an inside joke. But hey, next week we may actually. I don't want to spoil it yet because next week we might actually have a guest.
Ooh, I'm excited.
We might have a guest. He's a historian. He is.
Teach us some things.
Yes, teach us some things. I've got some interesting people that I'm connected with. I actually have a few people that lined up that might really inspire us and bother us.
Bring it on. I'm very excited.
Inspired and bothered. So
we got too comfortable.
We did. So yeah, now we need somebody to kind of stir us up a little bit and go, you guys are crazy. Yeah. So. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, like, share, subscribe, share with your friends, and just let them know that there are other people here in the world who are way overthinking it. I am Sean.
I'm Paul. And hey, I want to tell you guys, not only do I want to wish you guys a great weekend, but along with liking and sharing this video, we also have the audio version of the podcast. Yes. So you guys can find it on Spotify if you'd rather just listen to it.
Yes.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, all the places. We're on there, and we're the fastest rising podcast after Crystal and Cigar.
There is nowhere to go but up.
That's right.
We will see you next week.
Take care, guys.
I'm thinking it.
All right. Bye-bye.